Hello and welcome. In this tutorial, I will display how we can use Automapper in .NET Core. And we're gonna learn how to map two classes with each other, how to map specific class properties, and how do we register Automapper in startup. So we want to use Automapper. For instance, if you have an API and you have a table, that table you don't want to return to the user with all the information. Sometimes you want to just return half of the information. And that is when DTOs is really good to use. In our example here, we have a product which has an ID, name, and a secret. We do not want to return the secret to the user. However, we also have a product DTO. So it's data transfer object. We have a product ID and name, and this is what we want to return to the user. So in our controller, when the user calls get product, we are getting the product from our database, and this is type of product. Now we need to map product to product DTO, and then we need to return the product DTO to the user. And this is where we can use Automapper. So let's start. The first thing we need to do is to install Automapper. So write Automapper and you will find this dependency. So let's install this dependency or library to be more correct. So now this library has been installed. What we need to do now is that we can go to maybe our folder called modules here and add a new class called product profile. The important part here is that we inherit from profile. This is a base class from Automapper. And now we can create a constructor. In the constructor we can say create map, and we want to map product to product DTO. Here. So now we are mapping product to product DTO. Now we need to register this Automapper in the startup. So we go to the startup, say service.add Automapper, and then we need to say what type of Automapper. Where do we find the information about the mappings? And this is where we can say type of and the class. Now this has been registered to the system in the dependency injection configuration. So in our controller now, we can get a dependency called IMapper. So this IMapper is where the Automapper will use to dependency inject its object or its class to. And we can say mapper here. And then we can create this as a field. So we register it up here as a property. And now, when we are getting the product, we can say this dot mapper dot map. What do we want to get from our mapping? Yeah, we want to get a product DTO. And what do we want to map? Yeah, a product. And here we can say is type of product DTO. Product DTO is equal to this. And then we're going to return the product DTO here. So let's try this out and see what happens. So I'm starting my API, starting here. I will try it out. Now we can see that we are getting a product with ID 1 and is a product. And we are mapping it to a product DTO. But we are only getting the name, not the ID. Why is that? And this is because in the product DTO, we have something called product ID. Meanwhile, in the product class, it's called ID. So in our profile, we need to do one more configuration. We have to say for member destination dot product ID. So the destination is the product DTO. And then we're gonna say the source goes to source.map from. What do we want to map from? Yeah, the source goes to source.id. So now we are saying map the product ID to ID on the product. I need one more parenthesis here. So let's see if this work now. So I'm starting it here. Start, execute. We are getting the product, and now we are mapping it. Whoop, my whole Visual Studio froze. What's going on? Let me pause until it works again. So we are back. Now we have a product DTO, and it's a product, and the ID is now mapped. So let's run that. And it's the same logic when we have an IEnumerable or a list of product. So if I stop this, I'm getting the product as an IEnumerable here. Then I can say this dot mapper dot map. I want to get a list of what? A product DTO. And where is the data? Yeah, in the product variable. And now I can say list products DTO is equal to this. Map new list. I have to import something. Map list to product DTO. What am I doing wrong here? Map list product DTO product. Let me pause and just figure out what's going on. So we are back. I was just missing an arrow here. So now we are mapping a list. We are getting a list of product DTO from our data here. So let's try it out and see what happens. So we're starting the API. Try it out. Start it. We are getting the products as a list. All the information is here. And then we are mapping it. And it's also being mapped as a list, which is working. So return here. Now we have to do the opposite. So we need to create a product. We can let it be like this. So let me put an debugger here. Execute. So now we're getting a product. It's a string and ID 0. We can say this dot mapper dot map. And now we want to get a product, not a product DTO, but a product from where? Whoops. I have to do like this. We want to get a product from our product DTO. And then we can say product, it's called, yeah, let's say product like that, table product. So let's see if this works. Oh, it crashed. Why? This is because in our code, in our profile, we are mapping a product to a product DTO, but not a product DTO to a product. So what we can do here in the end is that we can say reverse map. So now we can go from product to product DTO and DTO to product. So let's see if I'm lying or not. I'm starting the API here. Let's start this one here. Try execute. We are getting a product here. And then we are mapping it to a product DTO now. And let's see, did it work? Yes, it did. We're getting ID 0 and a string. And this is just because we sent ID 0. And this is why we used the reverse map. Now we can go from product to product DTO and DTO to product. And it's the same with this for member. We are mapping product ID